My name is Jennifer Isadore, and I am the principal flute with the Symphony of Southeast Texas. I've actually been there for 17 years. And today I'd like to share with you some pieces from orchestral literature that have the flute in it that represent different bird sounds. So what I'd like to start with is actually a piece that is probably pretty well known, and it is by Sergei Prokofiev, who's a Russian composer, and it's called Peter and the Wolf. And so there is a bird in this, and it gets introduced at the beginning of the piece by the narrator, and he introduces all the different animals, all the different instruments. So when he has the flute come in, this is what you hear to represent the bird. The next piece I'd like to share with you is actually by a pretty famous composer that you have probably heard of, Ludwig van Beethoven. He's a German composer, and he wrote 9 different symphonies, and this actually comes from his 6th symphony. This is the second movement, and what happens in the score, he actually lists out 3 different birds. So he has the nightingale as the flute, he has a quail as the oboe, and then he has a cuckoo as the clarinet. So what I'd like to do for you is play the flute part, which is the nightingale, and then let you actually listen to what it sounds like in the orchestra, where the oboe and the clarinet come in as well. Since I don't play those instruments, you'll have to just hear it together in the symphony itself. So let me give you the nightingale. There's the nightingale, and then together with the oboe and the clarinet you get this. So you hear that together with the oboe and then the clarinet. So the clarinet represents the cuckoo. Now the cuckoo is a bird that gets actually portrayed a lot in classical music. The flute may not get it as much, but the clarinet actually does play it a decent amount. But I want to give you another example of the cuckoo. So this is from Gustav Mahler's First Symphony. He is a German-born composer. And in this first symphony, he uses that cuckoo sound, those 2 notes, and then he does lots of variations on that. So he puts that in and then puts it together with other notes and everything. So let me play you just the part that is the cuckoo by itself. So you get those 2 notes. If you notice, that may sound slightly different than the cuckoo that the clarinet played in Beethoven. Just so you kind of know the difference, in here he uses what is called a perfect 4th. In the Beethoven, he uses a major 3rd. So let me explain what that means. So if you have your different notes, and if you've ever looked at a piano, you see there are white keys and black keys all the way up. So each one of those, from white to black, there's a couple white keys right next to each other. Those are called half steps. So a major 3rd is 4 of those half steps. And so that's what you heard in the Beethoven. Here he uses it as a perfect 4th, which is actually 5 half steps. So it's just a little bit wider, but it still gets that same sound, those 2 notes. So he uses those 2 notes, that interval, in another example here that I'm going to play for you. You won't hear it quite as easily, but it is in there, so I'll explain it. But let me just play it for you first, and then I'll break it down for you. So what you get is the cuckoo sound is these 2 notes. So it actually goes back and forth. it's that second, third, and fourth note. So he's using that cuckoo idea, but he's changed it around to write another melody to go in his first symphony. The next piece I'd like to play for you is actually the last one that I have today, and it is not an orchestral piece, but instead is for flute and piano. This is by a Czech composer named Bohuslav Martinu, and what this is representing a bird called a whippoorwill. So he was up in Cape Cod, and he actually found this whippoorwill that was hurt under the weather, so he decided to nurse this bird back to health. And so he really liked the call that this bird had, and I guess he decided to pay a little tribute to it by writing something in his sonata for flute and piano in the third movement. So I'm going to play you first the sound of the whippoorwill. Let me get back to that here real quick. And so what you'll hear is just a little pattern, and you're going to actually hear it in the flute, like it will really sound like it. But let me just play this for you. So let's move this forward. All right, here we go. So you can hear that pretty repetitive sound. So let me play you just a little bit of this solo. See if you can listen for that pattern. Sounds pretty much like it, doesn't it? So it's just that very little bit at the end, and then the high register stuff that you heard a little bit before that. So that's my little introduction to birds played by the flute in music, especially in orchestral settings. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope that maybe it inspired you to want to pick up the flute, or maybe you've listened to some of the other videos from the other symphony members and you want to play one of those instruments. I really hope you'll look into it. Playing a musical instrument is great, gives you lots of discipline, teaches you lots of things, and it's something you can enjoy all of your life. So again, thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again sometime. Thanks.